Hey everyone, really excited to share this video here today. We dropped the Packers deep dive about 5 days ago, and many of you were pointing out, this is great, but it's missing a little something. Where's Mike Renner? Lead draft analyst at PFF for, the last 5+ years. Super insightful guest. Didn't work out timing-wise to have him on for the Packers deep dive this year, but we've got him now. We got Mike Renner. Really excited to share this interview with you guys. But I do have a couple things to say. We'll keep it quick. This is going to be posted along with the mailbag this week for the Fully Inflated Football podcast. For any of you that do not know, I do have a podcast. It is just that, the Fully Inflated Football Show. There's a separate YouTube channel for it as well, where we share all of the video episodes. So that link is in the description below. Make sure you do follow that. You can find it wherever you get your audio feeds as well. And the mailbag episode this week is awesome. We've been stockpiling mailbags for like 2 months from all of my amazing supporters on Patreon. And there's some heavy hitters. It's a really good episode. The mailbag add-on will only be available over on the YouTube channel and on the audio feed. So go check that out. Make sure you subscribe to that. And the aforementioned Patreon as well. Might as well remind you that if you want access to submit questions to the mailbag, if you want to show your support for this series, the deep dive series rather, that is where to do it. That's patreon.com/slash that franchise guy. So thank you to Mike for coming on. Make sure you give him a follow at Mike Renner _ on Twitter right now. And he's going to have some career updates for you guys as well in the near future. But thanks you guys for watching. Thanks, Mike, for coming on, and let's get into it. Welcome in, everybody, to a very special episode here. We are joined by my good friend Mike Renner, former lead draft analyst at Pro Football Focus. And we couldn't quite make it out scheduling-wise. Mike was out at a golf retreat when I got the Packers deep dive up. So we just missed it, but it's all right. We're only like 3 days behind here, which is no problem. We're just happy to have you. Thanks for coming on. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. I was in Green Bay for like the whole month prior to that, before I went to Chicago to play at Cog Hill. But like I've been up there all summer. My brother lives up there now. My parents have a house right next to Lambeau Field. So I was like 2 blocks from Lambeau for the whole month prior, just getting all the buzz going around.
Yeah, that's
no, actually, I didn't hear shit, but it was real nice to be up there.
Just kind of getting in the mood a little bit. I feel like this year there's a new level of excitement, honestly. Like, I don't know. I don't have any expectations, but I'm looking forward to this season more than I have years past. I don't know if you share that sentiment or not.
Well, I think you said it right there. This is the first season where there is no expectations, right? Like every other year, you're like, gosh, if we don't win the North, if we don't, get to NFC Championship game, Super Bowl, like this year we should, and then they let you down. But now it's like, you can't let you down if you have no expectations. So that's how I feel. It's like, you can't let me down this year at Green Bay.
I know.
You really can't.
It's been about 30 years since we've been able to say that. Until Jordan Love becomes the next Hall of Fame quarterback, and then we can just feel that way again, Of
course.
Yeah. Today we're gonna definitely talk some Packers, and then we're gonna expand our horizons a little bit, which we get to do because this isn't just the Packers deep dive here. So we're gonna talk a little bit of NFC North banter, and then we're gonna end it with some hot takes. We're gonna try and sell each other on some of our big hot takes coming into the year. So gonna be a really fun episode here today. Let's start with the Packers. I'm super down on Joe Barry coming back. I can't believe, I can't say I can't believe it because this team just doesn't like to change things a whole lot, but I still can't believe it. Like I felt like he did such a poor job last year. Are you in the same boat where like, how did they not fire him? He's so bad. He's going to hold this defense back. Or do you see a little bit more hope? Maybe with some of the stuff he did last year.
I'm not surprised they brought him back. I'll just say like that's the Packers, how they operate. They're quick on the personnel side to move on, but slow on the coaching side. Like that notoriously, like they want to keep top down sort of continuity. They want continuity at the top to stay as long as possible, and then as you get further down, then they'll be more willing to make changes. So like DC is a big position. They don't want to be rotating through every 2 years new DC. So I'm not surprised that they didn't make the change. But I mean, there's not much to go off of in Joe Barry's sort of history as a coach to suggest this is the year it just turns around. You have a top 5 defense, right? Like besides the fact that what he spent, I had a cup of coffee with Vic Fangio at some point in his life. Like that's all you're going off of at this point, sadly. So that to me, like I don't think it's going to turn around. I do think you may have some better personnel though, or at least like on paper it looks better. There's guys who are quote unquote emerging, guys who should be improving, but again, I don't all of a sudden think this is going to be a top 5 unit.
Like a take of mine has been that the Fangio scheme as a whole has kind of very quickly come in and out a little bit. Like I know all these teams are still trying to do some of this stuff, but like I feel like what we saw with Cleveland and Minnesota and Green Bay last year, some of these coordinators just they're all in on the whole Fangio concept where they want to, play top down, allow everything underneath. But I think the most frustrating thing for me with Joe Barry was like when you're playing Tua or you're playing, backup quarterback for the Patriots, like they're happy to take dump offs underneath and then like not adjusting. So like, do you see the Fangio scheme kind of not necessarily getting phased out entirely, but being a problem for some of these teams?
And it still takes any DC. It still takes like game planning, right? Like it's not just, hey, let's sit in too high and you're going to be good. Now, I do think there has obviously, I don't think it's going anywhere because you saw explosive plays down league wide, like massively last year. It's just been a trend. The more teams are running, too high safeties, the fewer big plays you're getting. And that's just something you almost have to do to win in today's NFL is limit those big plays. So I don't think it's ever going to completely flip on its head. But it basically means that just because you run that doesn't mean you're Vic Fangio. You can't just plug and play any DC who's been around Vic and think that it's going to work out. Is I think the bigger takeaway. And so you're seeing still Brian Flores obviously is no Vic Fangio disciple, is going to play a completely different defense. But I think you're going to see Minnesota's defense be a lot better this year because the dude knows defense. Like he knows what the fuck he's doing. That's still like a massive, massive part of any coaching. Scheme is still very secondary. It's game planning that scheme for your opponents that I think, like you said, they're consistently left us wanting more with Joe Barry.
Yeah, that's very well said. So the next kind of Packers topic I want to do here is something I've been doing with a lot of guests here, and it's just a superlatives challenge, and it's a very fun way to just kind of like highlight some of the bigger talking points for the team, while also getting a little bit deeper into the players a little bit because the catch all here is you can only pick the same player one time as we go throughout the challenge here. Yeah, so
I didn't know. I didn't read that far in.
Yeah.
No player to reuse. I was going to reuse just LVN for every single answer.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, so we will go like snake draft style. So I'll give you the option. I'll just let you start with what was your favorite overall draft pick for this draft?
Oh, okay. So since I'm going to use a different one for number 2, I think my favorite overall draft pick from this draft was Anthony Johnson Jr., 7th round.
No, dude.
Out of Iowa State.
Come on, you're stealing. Like I was holding on to him. I didn't think you were going to grab him. Damn it.
I love that pick. I think for the slot role in this defense as it's currently sort of situated, he's perfect. I mean, the guy only played 1 year at safety at Iowa State and didn't test out like elite. I think he tested out fine, but like didn't test out great. But he's 3 years of starting at corner prior to that and had a willingness to put his body on the line that you just don't see for a corner, but also like good enough coverage skills that I think make him a plus cover safety. Like I'd put him right up there with some of the other cover safeties in this draft class. Guys like even like went way higher than him, someone like a Brian Branch. Like you leave those two guys one-on-one, I think they're about similar. Now Brian Branch does obviously some other things much, much better than Anthony Johnson Jr. does. That's why he gets drafted a lot higher. But I think as he gets more acclimated to the safety position, the guy could be an all-around player at that position. So to get him in the 7th round, and especially when you have the glaring need there, I'm not saying he's going to step in and start right away, but that's a guy who can make an impact on your football team, which, again, where you're getting that, I had him as a borderline. I think I actually finished him as a top 100 player on my board. So like that to me was one of the best value picks in this draft.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the scheme fits just perfect. A lot of these like Fangio style safeties are converted slot corners, like Micah Hyde, and the list goes on and on. Justin Simmons played a lot of that in college. Like it's going to be, I think someday he might be starting at safety for us. So I think this is probably because you took him. I was going to sneak him in there just as you did. I think this is where I'll pull Jaden Reed off the board. I was a big fan of Jaden Reed. We got to see him down there at the Senior Bowl, where he definitely turned some heads, just kind of showing that vertical ability. It's a guy that played a lot in the slot, and we need, the Packers need that in the slot. Just with Cobb leaving, and Dubs and Watson aren't really, true slot guys. But the fact that he can stretch the field, be this really good contested catch, like vertical threat, where he was awesome at it in the few times Michigan State was able to give him good vertical looks. Like, you can see like a world where he's Tyler Lockett, who came into the league as a 3rd-round pick, who was viewed as a slot guy. And I think that was such a kind of crafty, even if maybe the league saw him more as like a late 2nd, early 3rd-round guy, they looked at the things he does well and how well he's going to fit with the pieces they already have. And I just was like, that pick makes so much sense. So I was really excited about that one.
I was not as excited. I'll just say
Yeah.
it. I didn't love him as much. And especially like
Okay.
with what was on the board there. If you want that slot vertical guy, like Josh Downs made so much sense there, in
That
my
is
opinion,
true.
for that
Yeah.
same role. But that's just my take on that. I think he's going to be a very solid player, though. Like I
Yeah.
think he's a very high floor wide receiver, and you need that in Green Bay right now.
Yeah. I think that I've just been so like wired, like any receiver that's as small as Josh Downs is like, they're just not going to take him. So like, I agree
Fair,
he would have been
very
better,
fair.
but I just wasn't even really thinking about that. Cause it was like, he probably
Mm-hmm.
wasn't even on their draft board, cause they have their way of
You got
doing
type.
things. Yep. They got to type. So we're going to do the snake draft style. So I get the first pick now for our next
All
superlative.
right.
And that's favorite day 3 pick, which again, you took Anthony Johnson from me. But I will go with Carrington Valentine, another 7th-round pick, a guy who was, I guess I didn't go all the way back to his recruiting background, but I can only imagine a guy that comes out as a, true junior out of Kentucky, lengthy, athletic type, just a classic traits-based developmental corner. But to me, I viewed him a little bit with like Jalen Armour Davis, who came out in like the 4th round last year, like more of that late day 3, early or late day 2, early day 3 type of guy. Is like the traits are there. He's a young dude, willing tackler and all that. And for a cornerback group that has virtually no depth, he might get an opportunity as early as this year. And I just thought the value was excellent where they got him.
Yeah, young athletes at that point of draft, you really can't. That's For him to come out as true junior was not smart on his part. So I'd be like, he was not ready. Like that's why he falls to where he fell. But he's got all the tools you want for the position. That's, he could have realistically, 3 more years he could have spent in college and been still like a draft pick. Like some of these guys are 6th-year, 5th-year guys coming out. He has that much development still. So his 3rd year in the league, he'll be like some of the other draft prospects. So you're kind of just
Mm-hmm.
throwing darts, which I like at that point in the draft.
Yep. You're up.
My favorite day 3, it has to be Carl Brooks, the DT out of Bowling Green. I think he's going to have a rocky transition, kind of the way Devontae Wyatt did into the league. I don't foresee him playing much as a rookie, besides maybe like obvious passing situations,
Mm-hmm.
because he played edge. He's like stand-up outside linebacker for Bowling Green at 300 pounds. But there's just like a way of moving and an innate way he attacks blocks that just you don't get out of a lot of 300 pounders. So if he can just get a little more stout, get a little more power to his lower half, develop a touch more physically, I think this guy's at minimum a value add as a pass rush rotational 3rd down guy at minimum, and that's a 6-rounder DT. Everyone's looking for that guy on the interior. There's not a lot of them, so yeah, I'm a big fan of that pick.
Yep. Agree there. All right. So you are back around now, and you get to pick who's the best player from this draft 3 years from now.
It is Lucas Van Nasser, as I like to call him, Reggie White, because I think he's special, man. I had a top 10 grade on him. I had him top, I think, 9th or 10th player in this draft class overall. I think the traits are out of this world. I just watch him on tape, and the things he does, not a lot of guys are capable of. Just how low he plays at his size and how raw he still is, but still productive, without much to speak of. His ceiling is whatever he wants it to be, man. I mean, he's just a unique physical specimen that's what the elite guys at the NFL are built like. The
Mm-hmm.
elite edge guys, they don't just all of a sudden surprise you as fourth rounders who are average athletes. No, they look like Lucas Van Ness, and that's why they go in that range. I think he's going to be. I mean, him and Rashawn Gary it's just a scary duo for
Yeah.
years to come. So I'm a massive fan. That's
Yeah.
the best overall player in this class.
It's kind of sneaking under the radar, like the very real potential, especially if Wyatt can turn out, like the real potential for this to be the best defensive line in the NFL, like no joke. So
Two or
I
three
was
down the
also,
line wouldn't surprise me. Would not
yep,
surprise me.
yep, exactly. So the only guy I think left that would be kind of in range for the best player in 3 years, I think, is Luke Musgrave. You liked him quite a bit, right? You were on
Yeah.
here before the draft, and so yeah, I mean, his ceiling is something like a Jimmy Graham-esque, field stretching tight end. Like, he's super athletic. He's got the speed. He showed he's got great hands. I mean, you don't have to say a ton about it because he is a little bit more unproven. Just kind of that classic boomer bust option at the tight end position. But if Lucas Van Ness for some reason doesn't work out, I think Musgrave's got a good chance of being the best player from this draft in 3 years.
Yeah, I like the Graham shout out because Graham wasn't like a yak guy. Graham was
Mhm.
just get up the middle of the field and then here's this massive sort of target I got for you. And I think that's what Musgrave is. You're not expecting them to be, like a Kelsey, like even a Gronk in his
Mhm.
usage. It's purely like this guy's getting vertical, and they have a lot of guys now that can get vertical in that offense.
Yeah, souped up Robert Tonyan at least. Um,
Not hard, not hard.
Sorry, Bears fans. So now we get a little bit out of the draft a little bit. Next up is team MVP, which puts me up for the first pick on this one. And kind of an open board. I'm just trying to weigh, like, do I want to save any of these guys for later?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I just take them off now? I think I'll just grab Jordan Love now, which is, if he's
You better
good,
be
that's
team
the
MVP.
yeah. If he's good, that's the obvious pick for team MVP.
Yeah.
If he's not good, that's a risky pick, right? But given what we said earlier, where this team doesn't have a ton of expectations, I think being MVP for what this team needs this year is to figure out that they have that quarterback. So if he comes in and plays around the 16th best quarterback, I think you're looking at that. They had some team success. Maybe they make the playoffs. Maybe they don't. That's going to come down to close games and, how the rest of the division plays out. But, if you're feeling good about him going into year 2 with a young group of playmakers and, maybe not Joe Barry, we'll see. That to me would be like, all right, that was everything we could ask for from him.
I said, I wrote down here, hopefully Love. More realistically, I think Jair Alexander is he's their best player. He is
Mm-hmm.
at his position. It's a valuable position. And like, he shows up still only 26 years old. You're going to have like 4 more years of his prime with Jair. He's just fucking awesome, man. I love watching that guy play.
Yep. Great pick. Can't go wrong. Okay. Next up is the most pivotal / biggest wild card for the team. And I made it hard on you by taking Jordan Love.
I think it's Christian Watson.
Mm-hmm.
I truly do. Because, with Jordan Love, it's going to, if he succeeds, it's going to have to also come with someone stepping up and becoming like a guy on offense, right? You can't just have what you had last year where it's a lot of people doing a lot of meh for most of the season. That's going to lead to a lot of meh from Jordan Love too, right? It takes 2 to tango.
Mm-hmm.
You need the weapons to be performing at a high level too. So to me, just looking at their receiving core and how inexperienced it is, it just means someone has to show the F up, basically. You can't have the same sort of rookie mistakes we saw from a lot of these guys last year. And obviously at the tight end position, you're probably going to get what we saw from the wide receiver position. Like, I don't expect any tight end to come in the league and all of a sudden be, a home run right away. So that means it's Watson or that means it's Romeo Doubs, right? Like those are your options of guys to step up and get it. So Watson was the one drafted much higher. He's the much more physically gifted one. He's the one who put it on at the end of the season. Get that guy the rest of the year that we saw, that small stretch, get that guy for 6, 17 games here. you can be a much better offense.
So we just lost you at the end of your thought there. But yeah, I had Watson on my list as well. I think you see like him coming out, he had hands questions, whether it was contested catch ability or drop issues. The end of last year, not an issue at all. In fact, it was a strength for him. So I think like that's the big thing. Like keep that up. And we're definitely in business with Christian Watson because there's not really a whole lot of questions about the rest of it. So I will come back around with my most pivotal player. And I thought about taking another shot at Joe Barry as the biggest wild card because he really is critical for this season. But I'll stay on the defense with Rashawn Gary just from a health perspective. Like he's coming off the ACL, and it just feels like a couple years ago, players coming off of ACLs was no problem. All of a sudden, the last couple of years, we've seen a run around the league of guys like kind of taking a much longer time. It feels like I don't know if I'm just making that up or what, but it just players don't always come back strong, full go in 10 months like Rashawn Gary does. So he's obviously so important for the pass rush. They want to win with 4. Lucas Van Ness is a rookie. We like what we're going to get from him, but if Gary's only 80% of himself and he is a guy that really just wins off a lot of physical traits, like that might not even be that good of a pass rusher if he's not full go, and then this defense could be in a lot of trouble. So his health is going to be a huge factor for how good this defense is.
I will say with Precious Smith, Kingsley, and Egbury, and obviously LVN, like you didn't have to rush him back. If you're the Packers, I think it'd be silly to try to force him back out there before he's ready because those guys, especially Kingsley and LVN, like they need reps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. So I am back up. We got a couple more of these superlatives. Breakout player on offense. And this was a little bit harder because we went through all the rookies. I'm going to take Zach Tom. I'm going to take Zach Tom to be the day one starter at right tackle. They kind of were shuffling through like where they wanted to play him last year. A little bit of left tackle with the injuries there, a little bit of guard. Right tackle last year, the last game of the season, they bench Nyman, kind of getting worked by Aiden Hutchinson a little bit. They put in Zach Tom. I feel like where we are at this point in time, they should feel pretty good about him as the right tackle. Love his technique. Don't know if that's his long-term position or not, but I think he kind of cements himself as at least a really solid starting right tackle in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I had him picked, but I'll go Romeo Doubs. Truthfully,
yeah, he's on my list too.
I think he's just solid. I think he's a solid number 2. And obviously, like if he just cleans up, there was inconsistencies last year because the guy showed he could win. He would win far more often than you expect a rookie too. That wasn't the problem at all. Was being able to separate. It was hands. It was being in the right place at the right time. Rodgers like harped on it fucking every single week. It seemed like, but sometimes that's just the transition. There's a lot being thrown on your plate, especially going from Nevada to obviously the big league. So I do think year 2, Romeo Doubs, we'll see a much steadier player, and that's a good player, truthfully. So I'll pick him.
Good pick. I'll buy you a burrito if you can guess the third guy I had on my list for this one.
Ooh,
it's a skill player.
Don't Josiah DeGuara.
Is that a serious guess?
No.
Tyler Goodson was going to be my third.
Oh, that's
in the event that Aaron Jones gets hurt. I think he's the route runner out of the backfield, so that'd be interesting. Okay,
all right, I get Snake on defense.
Yep, you got Snake.
Devontae Wyatt has to be. He was close towards the end of last year. He had reps where it's like, okay, there we go. There's Devontae Wyatt. He's just such a freak of nature athletically. Really, it was just couldn't see the field because the run game deficiencies. Just didn't have any sort of hold the point reps, shall we say, that were worthwhile. But I thought towards the end of the year, even that was improving. So it's all there. There's a reason why they picked him in the first round, despite being 24 years old. And I think we see that this year. So Devontae Wyatt.
Yep. Reps a key word there because he's getting them. They let those vets go and didn't replace him. I'm kind of on the same line of thinking there with another D tackle in TJ Slayton because of some of the run defense deficiencies you mentioned with Wyatt. I think in those critical situations, it's going to be Slayton out there. he's shown he can play. Like, he can at least hold his ground and open things up for the linebackers in a way that really none of those other defensive tackles can. But he can split doubles. He can make plays. Like, I think it's there for him to just be that kind of quasi starting nose tackle and cement himself in that role.
Let's hope so, Fuck.
Yeah. They're counting on those guys.
Yeah.
All right, so the last one here is more of a position group question. The most improved position group for the team. And I'm up, right?
You get this one. Yeah.
Okay, I'm actually going to go with the offensive line, which is weird because it's the same group on paper. But you look at how it was coming into the year, it was a disaster with Bakhtiari trying to get back. Elton Jenkins wasn't full go. They were trying him at right tackle. They were trotting out Newman at right guard. And, I think they know who their guys are this year. They're healthy. Having that continuity is so important. I believe in the talent there, but the talent did not match the production last year, not even close. So I do think it's low key their most improved group.
It just has to be this because you went from literally zero talent. It's tight ends. Like, it has to be tight ends. Even if they're rookies and maybe you're not expecting them to do much, it's still more than absolute zilch that we were seeing from that unit last year, though. So I think it's tight end.
Yeah. Trying to watch Mercedes Lewis run routes is just like painful. All right. So that
it's the old, like, do you think you could like catch a ball in the NFL? It's like, well, did you see Mercedes Lewis like run up and down? I mean, it wasn't getting away from people. So, but I'm also not 6'8", so.
Like, I feel like Zach Tom could have played that role about the same level. So yeah, that does it for the superlatives challenge. That was fun. I did want to ask if there was any undrafted free agents that you liked for this team. I felt like it was kind of an underwhelming group.
Yeah, it was kind of overwhelming, kind of small. The only one that really, like, I'm intrigued what he might do is Brenton Cox Jr. Because uber talented dude. I mean, dating back to his time at Georgia where he was playing like 5 years ago. He was seeing snaps for Georgia, I think, like 2018 or 2019. Then got booted from there. He booted from Florida last year. There was a time, like his first year at Florida after he got kicked out of Georgia, I was like, he could be, a day 2 pick, I was thinking, at his size, but obviously never improved. After that, I'm guessing there are some concerns about off-field, considering he's been, again, dismissed from 2 different universities. But if he finally got a wake-up call and got his head on straight, there's talent. So he was the most intriguing one to me by far.
Yeah, he was like the only guy. He was one of those players, though, that like I had done his eval, and then I kept coming back to Florida for a couple different players, and he was making plays that I hadn't seen yet. I was like, God, the talent is there. So yeah, we'll see. All right, so the last Packers question I have for you is here's the scenario for you. We're in Vegas. You got to place a bet. I'll give you $500, and you have to bet: does Jordan Love finish above or below the consensus 16th best quarterback in the NFL this year?
So I went and had to list them all out when you asked me this, and I think it's got to be below. I'm just playing the odds here. This isn't hating on Jordan Love. I think he'll be fine, but I listed 12 guys who, if they stay healthy, like for sure are going to be better.
Yep.
Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Trevor Lawrence, Lamar, Herbert, Dak, Hurts, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith, Matt Stafford. Those guys stay healthy, play football. They're going to be better than them. Then you have, so that's 12. Tua, Kyler, Carr, Fields, Goff, Tannehill, Deshaun. 7 more guys that, like, in any given year have been considered top 10 QBs.
You probably throw Russ in there too.
Could be. And it's not even mentioned Russ, just assumed he fell off a cliff. But so there you go. 8 guys getting it to 20 that have just, like, quite frankly, shown a lot more than Jordan Love has because Jordan Love's not played. So just simply playing the odds here, I'm going to go under. But I like him ending up in that next tier that I just talked about, that tier of 8, where it's like, they're fine. Those guys are quarterbacks, like they're good right now. Maybe like Deshaun in that maybe is like doing him a disservice compared to where he was prior to all the sexual assault allegations. And maybe like Kyler, it's not doing him a disservice based off of the ACL, but like those are guys you can win with. I fully expect him to end up towards that tier as this season goes on.
Yeah, I'm glad you put it that way because when I first sent you the question, I was thinking about put it into tiers, but then we'd have to make our tiers, and that was going to be a whole mess. So,
Mhm.
yeah, very very well said and a smart gambling play by you. So let's transition to some of these other teams in the NFC North here. I want to start with talking a little bit about the Detroit Lions. And my first question for you is: are you buying them as the lead, the gambling favorite for the division? They're currently plus 125, which is like almost even money for them to win the division. Would you make that bet? Are you buying that?
I am. I'm on the hype train.
All right.
I don't love. I don't think they're a serious contender, even in the NFC. Like even compared to like Eagles, Cowboys, I'd put them clearly behind teams like that. But it's one because the NFC North is so weak outside of
Hmm.
them, and two, it's just really not a lot of holes. They've really done a good job of cleaning up what could be perceived as holes on this roster. Whether it was adding Jack Campbell at linebacker, whether it was throwing the kitchen sink at their secondary this offseason. Like I think they'll be just a team that's not going to throw away games in the manner they did a season ago. And at that point, if they don't throw away the games they did, because they lost a lot of games they really should not have, that's, an 11, 12 win team. So I do think the Detroit Lions take this division. I am buying them as the favorites.
All right, all right. I'm not going to comment on my end yet because I try to, hold back the
Mhm.
mystery of the series, and we haven't revealed them yet. So I will hold back on my answer there. But um, interesting. I wasn't sure if you were going to say yes on that, but they were definitely roaring at the end of the year. And then what about the draft? Like, dude, I hated their draft. I really did. I felt like they had so many like they had so many opportunities to walk away with like game changing talent and like really take that next leap up as a team. And I felt like they completely dropped the ball. I like some of the players they got, but for what they
Mhm.
had, dude, I hated it.
Yeah, I mean, they could have. I think I tweeted after draft that they felt like they went into a steakhouse and ordered a hamburger because they
Yeah.
had the best, some insane draft capital. Even what they ended up picking was 12, 18, 34, 45, 68. You have five premium picks, five top 70 picks like that. You're expecting home runs, and they hit a lot of singles and doubles. So like they are, and the ironic thing is like they're a better team right now for maybe this draft. Like Gibbs and Campbell are guys who can make an impact tomorrow and be solid, but they really cut themselves off from any sort of high end long term impact with this draft outside of someone like Hendon Hooker, and really just played it to be not trash this season and to plug holes for this season, which when you have that much draft capital, that's not how I would have approached it. So um, that's how I feel like all their players in a vacuum are great players. I love Jameer Gibbs. I love Jack Campbell. I love Sam Laporta. I love Brian Branch. I just don't think they're massive impact players because they're all
Hmm.
they're all in the value tier hierarchy of NFL positions. They're all below average positional values. So
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
just how I saw their draft.
Yeah, it's the positional value thing is the biggest thing for me. It reminds me a little bit of like I feel like they set themselves up to maybe fall into that like Indianapolis Colts, like New England Patriots range where it's like, yeah, they're good balanced teams, but do they have those guys that can take over games and
Mm-hmm.
raise them from being playoff contenders to make the playoffs to being real Super Bowl contenders? I was not um, you know, anywhere close to feeling like they got that in that draft. So what about the Minnesota Vikings? I feel like there's a lot of people just kind of agree, like, yeah, they won a lot of close games. They're kind of in this weird transition. I don't need your like overall thoughts on the Vikings, but what about the Mekhi Blackman pick? Where did you have him on your draft board?
I had him in the 150s. I want to say
Yeah.
I should have gone back and looked, but I had him as a day three, so it was a reach in my opinion. But it was like to me, it had Brian Flores fingerprints on it, where it's like, let me
Hmm.
get a feisty man corner. He fits. He's probably going to play I would imagine plays the slot for them, even though they had Byron Murphy. I think Kai is more of a slot just in terms of body type. He's just thin, but
Yeah.
that's why I didn't love him as a prospect because thin, undersized man corners is kind of synonymous with getting bounced around by the AJ Browns
Right.
of the world. But I, I do think it's something that Flores, when you're changing schemes that drastically, you need personnel that's going to match what you want to do. And he obviously matches what they want to do. So it was a reach in my book, but like their secondary is tough on paper right now.
Yeah. Yeah. He'll be interesting to see how that plays out just because of the scheme fit. So the last team left to talk about is the Bears. And I'm setting you up on this one a little bit, so you can dodge it if you want. But is the Packers fan in you afraid of Justin Fields?
So I was thinking about this, and it really has never been. Even though I really love Fields coming out, I am his third player in that class, and so like I was when he went to the Bears, I'm like, shit, like the Bears had to go there, and I'm like, why? And it truly is because it's the Bears. If he was on the Minnesota Vikings right now, I would be very scared of him. I would be like, God damn it, this guy's going to be nasty. But something about the Bears in the quarterback position, and it was maybe just the whole Jay Cutler tenure, that just makes you know that some reason it's not going to go as well as it probably should. So that's my thoughts on Justin Fields. Even if the dynamism he has is awesome, I think he'll improve to the point as a passer where they're going to be invested in him long term. I don't think he just bottoms out and they're looking for a new QB anytime soon. But for some reason, it still just doesn't scare me.
I know.
Doesn't scare me.
I know. Like I love the pick, but yeah, the development hasn't been there. We'll know. We'll know at the end of the year if we're afraid of Justin Fields, I think.
Yeah.
All right, man. Now we get to really heat things up. We are going to try and sell each other on each other's hot takes. We each put together 3 of these. So I will let you start. Give me your best sales pitch.
My first hot take. I kind of went first and second are related, but we'll say my first hot take is that the New York Jets are the best roster in the NFL. Not sure how hot that is, but think about defensively. I don't think it was a stretch to call this defensively the best roster in the NFL even a year ago, and really done nothing to change that over the course of the offseason. I think their D-line might even be better. I mean, it's just so stacked up and down. They would throw 8 guys out there that are like plus options along the defensive line. And then Aaron fucking Rodgers pissed off, wanting something to prove. That's the most dangerous. That's the only time he's dangerous nowadays.
Yes.
But that's where he is. And to me, I think that solves pretty much everything that was wrong with them a season ago. Like that is that it was it. That was why they lost games. And now all of a sudden they have that. You have Garrett Wilson heading into year 2 after how insane he looked in year 1. I think this Jets team is built to be there at the end of the year.
So this might turn into our 2 hottest takes because one of mine was the Jets will win the Super Bowl this year.
So we're on the same page.
Yeah, we're on totally on the same page. I think what you said about Rodgers is spot on. Like, maybe this sounds stupid, but like even just like him cutting his hair and not saying stupid things in the media, it's like I feel like and like a report came out today, like he's pissed that they got Hard Knocks because he wants to stay focused on the team. Like, I don't know, everything he's kind of said and done kind of matched the idea that he's recommitted to football, which last year he just wasn't. He was tapped out. He was sick of the team, and he knew the team probably wasn't going to win a Super Bowl. He just wasn't as sharp as a football player, and just the like playing in structure and playing on time, it kind of went away again. And I think it's going to be back. And that's such a difference maker for who he is as a quarterback. You put that with that defense, it's like, yeah, I think they could totally win the Super Bowl. And they're like the 7th in odds right now. So I think that's enough to be a hot take. So we're in sync, I think, on that one.
All right. My next one, like I said, it's similar, is that the AFC East this year is what people thought the AFC West was going to be last year.
Okay.
And that it's just an absolute juggernaut. I think I look at the Bills, the Jets, and the Dolphins in that division, that the Dolphins now getting Vic Fangio's DC, like those are could be 3 of the top 5 teams in the NFL this season. They should be truly 3 of the top 5 teams in the NFL this season. Those teams are stacked, and it's just really if he stays healthy, like that is a as dangerous a team as exists. So like you have 3 teams that are vying for it, and the correlate, like everyone thought the Broncos was going to be that. We're going to be that. Obviously, the bottom fell out there. I don't foresee that happening with any of those 3. And I think the Patriots are always going to be, with Bill Belichick, they're always going to have a good defense. Mac Jones in year 3, despite what you want to say about him, like isn't a complete dumpster fire at quarterback. They're probably going to be around 500. So they're like what the Raiders were supposed to be, or actually, I guess, kind of ended up being last year. So three juggernauts and still a solid 500 football team. That's a damn good. That to me is the best division of football, and it's like that could be one of the best, all time sort of divisions.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like, dude, I don't almost think you undersold the Patriots a little bit. Like, I think them getting Bill O'Brien is like behind Aaron Rodgers is the biggest addition or the biggest improvement anybody made, just because the
Yeah,
play calling was
true.
such a fire there. And it's like, yeah, that's still Bill Belichick with the most talented defense he's had in a few years. Like, they're gonna be, I think, right there with those other teams. Not, I do have them fourth, but yeah, I'll buy that take for sure. All right, so I guess my next one is Tariq Woolen. I haven't said this yet on the channel, so I'm nervous for the reaction here. Tariq Woolen regresses to a league average starter this year.
Oh no! Don't do that to him.
I just the highlight plays are fantastic. I love the way he runs vertically and can find the football, that former receiver in him. They protect him by playing him off, and they use him in a way that really helps him. But when you watch him try to defend stuff underneath, I just was really underwhelmed by the reaction time, the ability to click and close, something they also ask a lot of in that scheme. And I think he's going to get targeted a lot more this year in a bad way. It might even give him a little more interception opportunity because of those targets. And the full public perception of how good he is probably only going to go up. But if we're talking like PFF grade or like the true consistency of his play, I think he's going to give up a lot of yards this year because Witherspoon's going to be locked down. And I think teams are going to look at Woolen's tape from year one and be like, all right, but we can run a dig under this guy. We can run stop routes and really attack this guy. Let's just don't throw deep on him. So that's kind of my take. Not that he's truly horrible, but
I think just he'll regress to probably where he should have been considered a season ago. Like people were debating him versus Sauce, and if you just watch their tape, it's like Sauce playing a different game. Like they were not on the same tier. They just weren't. If you on a consistent snap by snap basis, you can refer to the PBUs and the picks all you want for Tariq Woolen. Snap for snap, Sauce was at a different level. So I just think we'll see that more will come to fruition this year, and that just like he was not nearly as consistent. And I don't think he's ever going to be a guy who's super consistent just with his body type. It's difficult to move that fluidly at that size. So he's going to give up stuff. But average, I think he's probably a little more than that.
Okay, fair enough. All right, you got one more?
My last one. I hate that I did this. I hate going negative.
I just did it, so you're good.
I can't think of much else off the top of my head. But I was going to say the Eagles are going to regret the Hurts deal in a couple of years. Maybe not to the degree they regretted the Wentz deal because that was obviously massively injury related, but it could be. And it's because they bought at the very top of the market. They bought when that guy had played a game of his life behind the best supporting cast, truthfully, offensively, that we've seen in the NFL maybe in the last half decade. That offensive line combined with that receiving core is literally a flawless offense outside of the quarterback position. And as much as Hurts himself is very good too, what's that going to look like when it's average? And now it's going to be a few years before that happens, but it's going to happen because Lane Johnson's getting up there, because Jason Kelsey's getting up there, because they're not going to be able to pay Devontae Smith and AJ Brown $25 million a year with Jalen Hurts' contract as well. So there's like going to be things that are going to happen in this offense that it's going to chip away in the coming years. And to see a guy to elevate, I don't think I even saw that when things were going great last year for Jalen Hurts, that ability. So that's just what I worry about, is that he was just such a, I was going to call him a front runner. That's not like an accurate way. He was just like, they had such a nice sort of cushiony way that they handled games that there was just a distinct lack of adversity they had to play the quarterback position through last year, just compared to every single other quarterback in the NFL. That what's it going to look like once that hits? And now he's obviously the personality type that I think is going to do well in it, but no one does as well under adversity, under pressure, under things going south as they do when everything's going well. It's just not a thing that happens. So I think there's only, again, they bought at the very, very top of the market, and it's only going to look worse in the coming years.
Yeah, I'll buy that. And And yeah, you said it well. They're not going to regret it in the next couple of years. But when those cap hits start to get up into the 30s and 40s, and then you can go when he's 31. He's 31 years
his
old.
Contract wasn't necessitating doing a new contract in the next couple of years. They had him.
Yeah.
They had him for one more year, and then a franchise tag, and then another franchise tag if they wanted. So they didn't have to do that right now.
And the structure is so interesting. Like, he's 31 years old when the contract ends, and it has 4 years of voided money after that, a $35 million cap hit in 2029 when he's not under contract. So it's like, are they, man, just looking at that, like, are they admitting like, okay, he's going to play out this contract and we're going to move on from him and we'll just replace that with a rookie quarterback contract? Like, it's such a weird philosophy that they're going with. Like,
they're pushing
a third of that money is voided out after the 6-year contract's done. It's crazy. But I'll buy that. I think it was like taking the sliders in Madden and bumping them all down, lowering the difficulty. That's like how he was playing quarterback last year. So it's only going to get harder. I'll buy it. Okay, my last one is kind of a positive version of what you just did. Kyler Murray plays 12 games this year, finishes second to DeMar Hamlin in comeback player of the year voting, and the Cardinals pick outside of the top 5.
Ooh, that is hot take. Because that team stinks.
Yeah, that's probably the hottest take of the whole thing. But basically, he plays well enough that they're not one of the 5 worst teams in the NFL. He pulls out a couple tough wins late in the year and basically isn't replaced and says, look, I am the franchise quarterback here in Arizona.
I do think he's gotten a little too much hate. I just want to say.
Mm-hmm.
It was fucking until, Green Bay, Joe Barry ruined him. Once Joe Barry put the blueprint on, what was that, Thursday night game? Where
Rasul Douglas.
The Rasul Douglas pick at the goal line. That was it. Kyler Murray wasn't the same after that. But no, like that, people forget that he was the MVP frontrunner going into that game. Yeah. He was.
They were
every list you saw. He was the MVP frontrunner. Mm-hmm. I think people just a little too quick to write him off. Yeah. I'm still a fan. I hope they don't move on. I think the contract they gave him was a proper contract, and I think he'll end up living up to it, hopefully, here, once they put some talent around him.
Yeah. Hate's crazy. It's like it's like the CBS, I think, had him like 29th or something. It's like, what? He was in like tier 6 with like Sam Howell.
Recency bias.
I'm like, what? What?
Yeah.
That's crazy. All right, Mike, thank you so much for coming on. Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
I don't have anything to plug because I don't currently have a job, but maybe look out for an announcement in the next couple of weeks. I should have one.
Looking forward to it. Thank you for your time. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Let us know your hot takes in the comments down below, and we'll see you for the next one. Peace out.